All right, folks, what's going on? Roland Martin here. I'm coming to you live from Atlanta. Last night, I was inducted to the National Black Radio Hall of Fame. Tomorrow, I got a master class at Clark Atlanta University. So, we're glad to see you here. Yes, I'm representing my Texans, even though we lost today, but I feel really great, not only for this call, but also the Cowboys are losing. So, wow, what a fantastic Sunday. All right, y'all. Let's get right to this thing here. Of course, we've got 44 days, y'all, before the election. Early voting has already started in Virginia and several other places as well. And so folks are already going to the polls. And so we don't spend our time wasting our time on polls, things along those lines. Because no poll elects anybody. We don't want people getting overconfident. People who are saying, "Oh, hey, Vice President Kamala Harris, she's got this." Nope. We got to push as many people as possible to the polls as possible. Let's kick this things off. Mike Blake, what's happening? We're gonna go to Mike for a couple of words.
There we go. What's going on, brothers? Good to see you all. I just leaving from our future president. I'm here in New York. She spoke at an event earlier tonight here in New York. A lot of different activities are going on. Our future vice president is going to be doing events tomorrow around climate and being Governor Walls, making it real practical to everybody on the line. We need you right now. We have opportunities that are happening to get you plugged in. If you are in New York, New Jersey, starting this Saturday, we're going to have buses going down to Pennsylvania every weekend out of New York City. So if you want to rock with us out of the Bronx, out of Harlem, out of Queens, out of BK, please feel free to connect with us. I'm going to put my email in the chat, or you can just hit me up, Michael at atlasstrategy.group. Michael at atlasstrategy.group. We have buses going down to get y'all connected in Pennsylvania. We need you right now. Second, as Roland just mentioned, voting has begun. And in particular, we want you to know that in Michigan specifically, you're going to hear us talk about this a lot. Michigan is a state where if you vote straight ticket, that does not include the Supreme Court justice candidate, Kyra Harris Bolden. And so it's important to remind people in Michigan that you got to turn the ballot over so that you can vote for Justice Bolden. We will host a call this Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, to be able to mobilize and get people aware. It's our Kairos conversation for more people to learn about what is happening with Justice Bolden in Michigan, who is running for reelection out there in the state of Michigan. Important for people to know that. Third, if you're looking to find more ways to support the cause from a fundraising standpoint, the last fundraisers where the vice president will physically be at will be in San Francisco this weekend and Los Angeles. If you're looking to get connected again, hit me, drop me a note. All the brothers that are on the line, I welcome you reaching out. Michael at atlasstrategy.group. We can get you connected immediately. Anyone that's out there, if you're in Vegas or Colorado, wherever it may be, fly out for the events that are happening there in these particular places. We'll have a lot of messaging. We got messaging exercises that are going to be happening in terms of training and mobilizing people. National Democratic Training Committee, Kelly Dietrich and their team is ready to connect with you to plug you in immediately. Why is that so critical? Because we're seeing more and more the conversations around messaging that people are asking about, how to talk about the policies very specifically from an economic standpoint, black business, black men business. If you have not heard about it yet, Vice President Harris is proposing to go from $5,000 to $50,000 around the small business tax deduction. Critical right now. So when people are like, yo, she's not really doing anything around business, that's just not true. Black business, definitely not true. Black men business, definitely not true. That is the information that we need to have in your hands quickly and immediately. We have rolled out video campaigns in North Carolina to make people aware about why voting for VP Harris and Governor, soon to be Governor Josh Stein, is essential and making it very clear not all skin folk are kinfolk. In Michigan, you're going to start seeing digital ads around our black vote, our black jobs, our black justice. So when you see those graphics about Speaker Joe Tate, about VP Harris, about Justice Bolden, those are all coming from our respective teams and campaigns in that regard. And so, as you're thinking about ways to get involved, to get plugged in, We need you right now, brothers. All the folks that are in your world right now. And I know tonight we're especially highlighting the Divine Nine. Shout out to my brothers of Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. You know what time it is, all day, every day. We all crisscross, and no matter what your spectrum is from the Divine Nine, we need you involved. So again, this is ways to plug in. Lastly, starting this Thursday night, and Brother Martin, I want to connect with you on this as well. This will be after you're off the air, so definitely an opportunity. We will start back what we did 4 years ago, where we had nightly prayer calls to mobilize leaders of faith across the country on voting. It'll be at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, starting this Thursday through the election. Now, election day, of course, November 5th, but we know voting is starting now. Absentee voting, early voting across the country. It's going to take a few days for the ballots to be counted and resolved. And so, for all the people of faith that want to rock with us, that's going to be happening as well. This is a continuation of all the things you've been seeing across the country. Vote or Else just happened and will be happening. Killer Mike, Beanie Siegel, Pastor Mike McBride, Tamika Mallory, My Son the General, all were rocking around that. Project Freedom doing the same thing. There are moments that are happening right now where we need you. So again, for anyone that's hearing me for the first time, if you just jumped on the line, we are asking for you. If you're in the New York, New Jersey area, this upcoming Saturday through every weekend, we're taking buses down to Philadelphia, to Pennsylvania, across the Commonwealth. You can rock with us. If you're in San Francisco or Los Angeles, fundraisers is happening this weekend with the Vice President. If you're in town right now, you want to mobilize with Governor Walz, climate change events are happening as well. You want to get involved from a faith perspective. Starting this Thursday for 8:30 p.m. Eastern for the rest of the election, faith calls are going to be happening as well. You want to figure out how to get involved with influencers and surrogates. The Vote or Else campaign and a part of Project Freedom is a way to do that. We need you involved, brothers, right now, all day, every day. And so, no matter what state you live in, we can plug you in. So, Brother Martin, I'm going to turn this back over to you. I appreciate you. We thank you for always creating space for us here. We have opportunities to plug you all in. Michael at atlasstrategies.group, or you can text the word Kairos to 917-983-0800. Text the word Kairos to 917-983-0800 so we can plug you into the things that I just mentioned right now. Brother Martin, back to you.
Appreciate it, Mike. Thanks so much, frat folks. And the raise that Mike was talking about in New York, Vice President Kamala Harris raised $27 million. It is the largest one they haul since President Biden dropped out in that initial raise that took place. And so lots of momentum taking place. We see again what polling is saying, also, but more important, we're seeing again the pressure that's being placed on Republicans. Robinson, he had a bunch of his campaign staffers. They have quit. He's down to 3 campaign staffers. Josh Stein has opened a 10 to 14-point lead there. But you see the Harris Walz campaign still putting that pressure. You saw Governor Tim Walz. He was in Asheville, North Carolina this week. Of course, the vice president was in Greensboro. They've been hitting those places. And so the focus is really on North Carolina. The focus is on Georgia. But as Mike said, also on Pennsylvania. That's going to be critical. That blue wall holds Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. That is a recipe for victory. But they want to still do well and win Arizona, Nevada, want to win North Carolina and Georgia as well. And listen, Florida's putting that pressure. You got a U.S. Senate race there. Senator Scott can be beaten there. Of course, in Ohio, you got Senator Sherrod Brown. It's important to hold that particular seat, winning the seat in Arizona, winning the seat in Arizona, winning the seat in Nevada, and also the winning the seat of John Tester. Bottom line is Republicans want to win that, because if they do that, then Democrats will have control. And so, hey, if Republicans win Montana, but we're able to flip Florida, bottom line is it's a wash. And so we need to be thinking beyond just the presidential race. Khalil Thompson, Executive Director of Women with Black Men, you're up.
Man, I'm excited to be here with you. Sorry, I'm calling again from the car, second week in a row, from family duties, taking care of my pops, who's getting better and on the mend. But excited to be here with you all this evening. I don't have the honor, as some of those that are joining us tonight, to hail from one of these great organizations, but they are great because of the great work that they do for our communities and uplifting Black men as a whole. really excited about what this last week has been and what the next 6 weeks are going to look like. I know right now, Caribbeans for Kamala, Mike Blake and I share that affinity, are hosting their call and want to stand in solidarity with our Haitian brothers and sisters who are dealing with the racist and disgusting trope that was brought out a couple of weeks ago at the debate and doubled down on last Sunday. And so our hope is that we can continue to stand with those in Springfield and all Haitians around the country. Just as Brother Blake said and Brother Martin said, this is an opportunity over these next 6 weeks to get engaged. People are voting right now. We need people to stand up, make sure they get their voices counted and heard, but also then bring a brother or a sister or a neighbor to the voting booth with them to make sure they vote. Big Gretsch, the Governor Whitner in Michigan, said it best earlier this week. It was just 2 votes per election precinct that were needed to win over the majority of the vote in the state of Michigan in 2022. Imagine that, just 2 people showing up in your voting precinct, in each voting precinct, that can come out, that can change the difference in elections. Does those say that their voice and their vote doesn't matter? It does. We need to make sure that the margin is wide so that come November 6th, when we all wake up after Tuesday, on that Wednesday, there's no doubt who the next president is. I think we all are preparing for a long conversation about what this could look like, but we want to make sure we go into it knowing that we have the numbers. The other thing that we did this past week in Michigan with some of our organizers, shout out to Jaquan and Robert who are on the ground, we had a barbershop Shape It Up conversation that we hosted with a lot of great barbers at Mike T's over there just outside of Detroit in one of the suburbs. And I would beg the question of many of you all, the very first question that we heard from the youngest barber in the room, the very first comment that he made was on a women's right to choose and women's health and maternal health, making sure that we're protecting our Black sisters as they're in the healthcare system. It wasn't shocking that this is important because we are an equal part of our community, making sure as we raise our children that we want to make sure our sisters are taken care of and that we're doing it, that they have access and have the choice to make the decisions over their body, rightly so. And so this conversation that we're having tonight is vitally important. It's crucial. Win with Black men. By the end of this week, we finally have gotten it figured out. Our store will be up selling our Win with Black Men t-shirts. We make sure everybody has one as they're going to the voting booth, and our organizing plan is kicking in. Tonight, we were looking forward to making some calls, but we're going to shift that slightly because we want to hear from those that are joining us. I know we have a couple of amazing folks on. Roland, I know Quentin is on, and a few others are joining. So we got some messaging that's going to come directly from the campaign. I want to shout out to a good brother, Mr. Marshall, who's on, who's going to share his perspective that he can in a public setting of what's going on from the messaging side. But looking forward to those that want to get engaged, whether that's making a phone call, sending a text, or especially knocking on a door and taking a voter to the polls on this election day. Roland, I kick it back over to you and leading us as you always do on these Sundays, and looking forward to next Sunday. We are hoping to organize the labor community. So even if you didn't attend or if you happen to attend a four-year institution, or if you didn't, we want to hear from those brothers who are holding down our communities, whether they're our truck drivers, our nurses, our janitors, our sheriffs, our teachers, our painters, our machinists, longshoremen, teamsters, and I know I'm leaving out some unions, but if there's anybody from the labor community, hotel workers, please show up next Sunday. We're going to be here every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, hosting these calls between now and the election. And we're going to go beyond that after the election, but it's vitally important that we get all Black men engaged between now and Tuesday, November 5th. Roland, back to you.
Indeed. Khalil, surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, Quentin James, co-founder of Collective Pack, also one of the co-organizers of this call. Quentin joins us right now. Quentin, what you got?
What's up, team? Thank y'all so much for organizing this call again this week. I want to thank the Brothers of the Divine Nine who are here. Shout out to the Kappas, Brother Raxon. Glad you guys are here. So listen, we are, as Roland said, 44 days away from Election Day. Election season is starting now. We know many states will be kicking off early vote over the next few days and weeks. And so a couple things for folks to do tonight. Number one, please go to votetolive.org. votetolive.org. There you can register to vote, check your status. I'm here in Cleveland, Ohio. We were just watching the Browns game earlier, and literally one of my boys checked his status. He had been purged from the rolls, have been voting all his life. And so I don't care who you are, where you are, check your status to make sure you have not gotten purged. Make sure your friends, your neighbors, your family members are registered to vote. But also at votetolive.org, you can request an absentee ballot if you want to vote by mail. You can actually see what's going to be on your ballot as well. You can find your polling precinct. You can do all that stuff at votetolive.org. Please use it as a resource. We've got to get more folks registered to vote before these deadlines that are approaching as well. I think we got about maybe 13, 14, 15 more days to get people registered to vote for many of these deadlines that start, I think, October 7th is the soonest deadline. And so only a few more weeks for that, as well as getting folks ready to vote early. The reason we want folks to vote early is we want you to kind of get your vote cast. And once you cast your ballot, we can actually track it to make sure that it's getting counted. But also we want to make sure there are not a lot of craziness happening on election day come November 5th. And so make sure if you are registered, you sign up to vote early as well. That's really important. But as Khalil and everyone else said, listen, we are in the last few days, we need everyone to do something. And so starting this week on this coming Tuesday, we will be rolling out some volunteer opportunities for folks. You'll get an email or a text about that. But we need you to text voters. We need you to call voters. We need you to knock on doors. This is do or die, y'all. It's time to go. These calls are great. Us raising money has been fantastic, but now we got to actually put in the work to turn out voters. I'm seeing in the comments a lot of questions and even some comments about, listen, black men for Trump. Listen, there are going to be brothers who support Donald Trump. Yes. I guarantee you, 95% of us are rocking with Kamala Harris. And so we need you all to make sure you are turning out brothers in your community to show up and vote, obviously, for Vice President Harris. So please go to votetolive.org, get resources to get people registered, check your status, make sure you haven't been purged. Send that link out to people to make sure they can also get registered to vote because these deadlines are approaching. But look out for opportunities to volunteer starting this coming Tuesday. This will all be virtual. You can do it from your home, from your job, from wherever you are. You can volunteer for a few hours. The last thing, we actually will have some paid opportunities for folks to also volunteer over the next few weeks. And so you will also get information about that as well. But we will have some opportunities to pay you to work to turn out voters in your community. And so, yes, we will have more information on that over these next few weeks in these calls, also via text, also via email. But thank you all for what you have already been doing. Look forward to what we're going to do together over the next 44 days. Back over to you, Roland.
Quentin, appreciate it. Thank you so very much, folks. Kamu Marshall works with the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz campaign. He joins us now. Kamu, take it away. You on mute.
I'm sorry. Roland is
now we got
Kamaya Marshall.
Kamaya. All right, Kamaya.
Yes, hello, everybody. Glad that you all are on here. I'm glad to be joining you all. I'm a senior advisor on the campaign for political outreach and communications. I'm glad this is happening. I'm glad this has been happening, and it's some great folks leading this, some great black men leading this cause. So I'm glad to see that this is still going and going strong. My ask to all of you, I think it's been repeated already, is to do everything you can, literally do something. I'm gonna be a little bit more in the weeds here, and that is going to the folks in the barbershop, speaking to men in the barbershop, going to folks in colleges, folks who are not in school, going to the areas that we're not thinking about. I think as men, particularly black men, going to areas where we need to go talk to our cousins, our uncles, our folks who are not as politically engaged, speaking to them daily, educating them on what's at stake. The vice president has always said, and she's very clear about this, that she is going to work to earn their votes. Each and every vote, she takes it very serious. I think that is something that you'll continue to hear her say, that she's willing to work and earn their vote, our vote. And so I think that's one big thing. One thing I want folks to do is to reach out to me to let me know what kind of messaging things you all need. What are you all hearing on the ground? I do a little bit of traveling here and there. And I'm focused particularly on the battleground states with a huge emphasis on Georgia and North Carolina and Pennsylvania. So I'm anyone who's in that state, I would love to connect with you all in those places to figure out how we can target Black men and speak to them directly. Barbershops, churches, schools, gyms, etc., restaurants, wherever. I think this is, well, I know this is something very serious, and I don't know if folks feel how important it is. I know we hear this each election that this is the most serious election of our lifetime. It literally is the most serious election of our lifetime right now. And so I want to be a vessel for you all from the campaign side to hear what you all are hearing on the ground and how I can bring those things to our leadership on the campaign, on things that you are hearing on the ground, how we could be more effective and efficient, especially in these next 44 days coming up. Those are my top lines. I'm glad to be here. I'm a vessel. Utilize me, reach out to me. I'm very accessible. I am easy to get in contact with. You can follow me on social at Kamaya Mandela, either on Twitter or Kamaya Marshall on Instagram. I do respond. I may not respond right away, but I do eventually respond to folks. So reach out, ask questions, get involved. Let me know how you all need to hear from us on the campaign side, how we could be effective and efficient to folks on the ground. Roland, if it's anything else, just let me know. But I'm here. I'm going to stick around for a little bit on the call just to hear some things, take some notes, etc.
All right, then. Kamai, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, folks. A number of the Divine Nine organizations have political action committees. The organizations are 501c3s, and so therefore they cannot endorse candidates, but their PACs can. Joining us right now, Martin Raxton. Now, it's rare we gonna ever start with Kappas. But since us alphas are benevolent and we have grace, we gonna save the best for last. But normally we first. Martin Raxton, President CEO of Crimson PAC. Martin, take it away.
All right, thank you so much, and it's good to be here. Good evening, brothers. As indicated, we have about 44 days left before voting, or as voting is taking place before that November 5th date. So as president and CEO of the Crimson PAC, one of our beliefs is that we support candidates on the local, state, and federal level because all politics is local. And just like Vice President Kamala Harris started, she was a district attorney before she became Vice President of the United States, and now she will become President of the United States. So we believe in investing in our candidates at the very start of their program, but this election is extremely critical. So with that, not only are we supporting Kamala Harris, but we're also supporting Angela Alsobrooks in Maryland, who will become a U.S. Senator, Lisa Blunt Rochester, Delaware, who will become a U.S. Senator, and also our first African-American who will become Speaker of the House, none other than Representative Hakeem Jeffries. So we are collectively working with the other PACs and C4s of the Divine Nine fraternities, and we're looking to build out a ground game and to build out working and focusing on reaching our Black males, and to ensure that our Black men turn out, just like we know we will, in this 2024 election cycle, while embracing new technology to reach out to our intended audience. So as you read the news, here in Georgia, we have some things going on with our state election board, where now they're forcing and trying to mandate that each county election now count by hand ballots before they're certified. So it's initiatives and things like this that we have to pay strict attention to, and any way that we can get involved and engaged, that we inform our community of the things and activities and the tricks that are being played by those that do not want to ensure fair democracy. But we are for fair democracy. We are for making sure that everyone has an opportunity to vote. And with that said, we're very, very excited to be working with each one of the Divine Nine PACs and C4s for the fraternities, as well as sororities and Black men. So one of the things that I'm doing personally, I'm going out knocking on doors. We're going out making phone calls, and we're also ensuring that, as indicated, that our men know that, hey, you must be registered to vote. If you haven't got registered to vote, do it now. And if you have a plan, make sure you have a plan to go vote and execute this God-given right to vote. So we're very excited. We're paying close attention to the states that are being targeted, that we feel that if we win Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada, we're going to ensure that come November 5th, we're going to have a decisive victory and one that we're going to be very proud of and embrace the first African-American woman to become president of the United States, none other than Vice President Kamala Harris. So to get in touch with me, feel free to reach out to me at mraxton@crimsonpack.org. Again, mraxton@crimsonpack.org. I look forward to hearing from you. And Roland, thank you again for allowing the Kappas to be represented first as we talk about the Divine Nine Packs. I turn the mic back over to you.
All right, don't get used to that. All right, appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Let's go to Frederick Bell, Chairman, Sigma Pack 1914. Frederick.
Thank you so much, Roland. My name is Frederick Bell, Chairman of Sigma Pack 1914 and proud member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. As Brother Raxton shared, so proud to work with all the organizations who have set up C4s and packs to be involved in this election, because regardless of color, I think we all support the red, white, and blue, our democracy. And we know that there's one campaign that is doing that, and that's Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And we were so proud to endorse her candidacy, as well as Angela Alsobrooks in Maryland, Lisa Blunt Rochester in Delaware, and all down the ballot too. We got Don Davis in North Carolina. And we want to ensure that when we send Vice President Harris to the White House, that she has the Congress that can implement the agenda. We hear all the time from brothers. What has she done? She's been in office now for 3 years. What has she done? And what is she going to do? We have to understand that you have to have the kind of government that supports and is in alignment with the agenda. And as Stacey Abrams has said once before, voting and government is like exercising. You're not going to get the results that you want from one trip. That would be nice. But you got to keep going. You got to be consistent, and you got to be patient. So I also just want to note that being a member of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity is kind of what led me to this work. It led all of us to this work. Our organizations, their founding was about uplifting this democracy. In Sigma, we learned that we are the summation of all things, and in many ways, this election is a summation of this country's fears and anxieties, as well as its hopes and its dreams. We learn about being the inclusive we and not the exclusive we, because we're all in this together: black, white, gay, straight, rich, poor. As Vice President Harris said in her recent interview with Oprah, this election is about freedom, the opportunity to just be who you are in this country. And finally, I'll share this, and I want to attribute it to a particular person, but I will say it's from an older Black politician who said, in this election, doesn't matter what organization you're a part of, we're all AKAs. It doesn't matter what school you went to, we're all bison in this fight to elect Kamala Harris, the next president of the United States. So 44 days left. We know what we got to do. I'll encourage you to either adopt a precinct, as I've been sharing with brothers, phone bank, and make sure you're voting down your ballot. That is critically important. And if you need resources, I encourage you to go to the SigmaPack1914.org. Again, that's the SigmaPack1914.org. And we'll get you plugged in. You can also reach us at info@thesigmapack1914.org. Again, that's info@thesigmapack1914.org. Again, but we're honored and excited to be here. And the work doesn't end on November 5th. We are going to be engaged past that, and we hope that you will be there with us. But thanks again, and I'll pass it back to you, Roland.
All right, then. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. And let's go back to Marshall. Is he still there? Is he still there? All right, let's bring them back up, please. Come on, your camera's not on. Come on. Your camera not on, brother. Where you at? All right, so while we get his camera on, so let me explain. Let me say. All right, there you go. Khalil said you had something to add.
Said it again, Roland.
Khalil said you had something to add.
Oh no. Well, one thing I'll add is that shout out to all the alphas. I am an alpha, so I want to make sure that is represented. I'm hearing everybody mention their things. I guess the only thing I would add outside of that is that outreach and engagement in any of the battleground states. I want to find who are the key people, key Black men in some of these states outside of the political arena who will be good to speak with in Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and Arizona. So if any of those folks on this call, please reach out to me at kmarshall@kamalaharris.com. Again, that's kmarshall, 2 L's, @kamalaharris.com.
So here's the other thing. Let me add this here. So let me be real clear. I want to be as clear as possible, y'all. I am not concerned with Black men for Trump. Here's what. So let me explain that. What we have to do is explain to folks policies, explain to people what has actually been done, what is actually going to happen. And so if you get caught up in all of the BS out here, it's a bunch of lying going on. When Trump and his folks, they out here talking about what he's done for HBCUs, it's a lie. We know the fact of the matter is some $17 billion has been targeted, provided to HBCUs by Biden Harris, the most ever by a president in history. When you also want to look at policies, when you want to look at small businesses, African Americans, more startups in the last 3 years than we've seen. And keep in mind, COVID wiped out almost 50% of all Black-owned businesses. Well, the bottom line is we've seen a lot of those businesses return. Also, I think we make a mistake if we're only talking about Black men from a perspective of an economic perspective. Let me say this here, that what the brothers need to understand here, and again, Trump don't give a damn. The Affordable Care Act played a huge role in providing access to care for Black people. Okay, I'm really excited. The Cowboys lost. Praise the Lord. So you look at the Affordable Care Act. Okay. So we have to look at the whole of Black men. We got to look at there's only one administration that has made Black maternal health a priority. Brothers, your sisters, your aunts, your cousins, your mothers are dying at a higher rate than white women when it comes to maternal health. There's one part of that claims to be pro-life, but it's amazing how they're doing nothing about Black maternal health. And so we need to be walking people through that sort of information so they can understand the impact that's going on. And so from a policy standpoint, Donald Trump ain't doing a damn thing about any of that, and Vice President Kamala Harris is. You want to be from there? Come on, go ahead. You want to pick it up from there?
Nothing to add to that. You were pretty clear about that. I have nothing to add to that. Again, on the policy points, and Roland, you were a little choppy, so I didn't catch everything you said. But on the policy side, I think it's a big, huge difference easily when it comes to policy of what the vice president has been able to accomplish, even before she was a vice president. But also, I want folks to remember, I'm gonna speak very plain on this. If the vice president did half of what Trump has done, it wouldn't be a conversation. We wouldn't even be here right now. And I think a lot of people forget that. And so you have to remember, as a Black man, could you have the same opportunities as Donald Trump in your skin, in your body, and be able to compete? No, you wouldn't. And I think people forget that. And he does not. There's a lot of misinformation out there when it comes to his policies. He is a true communicator. In his eyes, there's no such thing as bad press or good press. All press in his eyes is good press. So I don't know if you watched the debate. I would hope you watched the debate. You could see a clear difference in someone who's ready to lead, who has experience leading, versus someone who is just talking. and not doesn't have our best interest. It's a clear difference on that. And I think people forget, we're very forgetful of the things that he's done. The pandemic. This is the same person that said drink Clorox. I think people forget those things that he's done when he was in leadership versus what has been done now. So it's a huge difference. I think folks need to remember some of those things. And I think as time goes on in the campaign, you'll hear more. You'll be reminded of those things, of his past, but also where we are now and what will be better moving forward.
I'm gonna do this here. I'm trying to. So Keenan, I'm gonna send you this graphic here, so people can actually see it. Matter of fact, you know what? We just do this here. All right. So hopefully this thing not going to cut out on me because of this iPad is dying. But this is what people understand something here. Let's talk about housing. Y'all might not be able to. So y'all see this here? I'm trying to see the graphic right here. Okay. So you look at this graphic right here. When we talk about housing, we talk about what's happening right now in this country with housing. Here's the deal. Between 2009, we built 14.56 million homes in the United States. The next day, because of the home foreclosure crisis, we built 6.9 million. We built 8 million fewer homes between 2010 and 2019. That was because of the home foreclosure crisis. That was the fewest number of homes built in America since the 1940s. So now let me add the second point to this. This is the housing graphic right here. Okay, y'all. This is the graphic. Okay. Now, here's the deal. Private equity by 2030, that's only 6 years, will own 40% of all single-family homes in America. So when people out there are complaining about housing prices and Biden did this and Biden did that and Biden did this, y'all gotta understand something. They don't build homes. So that's what we have to understand what's going on. They're trying to rebuild the housing stock. So when people are complaining about, well, rent is so high, that's because demand is high, because supply is low. And then what's going on is you got to add more stock. So we are now in the second decade. We are building fewer homes than we did between 2010 and 2019. So when you look at the proposal of the vice president, everybody keeps looking at, oh, she's going to offer $25,000 first-time home buyers. The other deal is she's promising to increase the building of the housing stock in this country. Let me ask you this question. Show me Donald Trump's plan when it comes to housing. Show me his plan when it comes to first-time home buyers. The black home ownership rate is at around 44, 45%. The highest it ever was when Bill Clinton was president. We got close to 50. That's also part of the problem. So Mr. Big Bag Real Estate guy, where's his housing plan that impacts Black America? So we need to be understanding policy, who is trying to help us do things and who isn't. And I'm right. Healthcare, Harris, Trump, Harris. When it comes to actual helping small business, you know what? Let me throw this one here out before I actually go. I'll pull up Khalil here. Y'all need to understand this here. The Trump campaign, the Trump presidency, you know what they did? They bundled contracts, meaning if you were a small business, you could not actually go after one of those large contracts because they bundled them. You know what Biden-Harris did? Same thing Obama-Biden did. They unbundled the contracts to allow for folks to be able to do this. I'm sitting in Atlanta right now. I'm actually at a hotel at the Atlanta airport. Do you know who also did that? Mayor Maynard Jackson. Why is it called the Black Mecca? Because Black businesses were able to apply and get contracts as a result of unbundling the contracts. Trump didn't do that. So yes, so y'all can believe all this nonsense you want to, but I'm telling you, this is what has been going on. And that so-called Trump Platinum Plan, promising $500 billion in contracts. Do y'all realize the federal government, its federal contracts are only $600 billion? So please tell me where the $500 billion coming from. Don't fall for the okie doke. Khalil.
Thank you, Brother Roland. I know you're switching over. I wanted to bring Kamala back up to have this conversation as well. As we're talking about this, give us 3 to 5 factual things. We know where Donald Trump stands, and he's not the best for our community. I think we're all in agreement there. But we want to make sure we can inform and educate brothers as they leave this conversation tonight. They can go back to their communities, back to their shops, back to their schools, back to their fraternity chapter meetings, and take 3 to 5 things to share with brothers. What are the facts, Kamala, that we can take back and see and share with those brothers?
Definitely. So some of the facts I will lay out is like, listen, under Vice President Harris's leadership within the Biden-Harris administration, she's overseen a record number of historic accomplishments for Black Americans and Black men. Just to name a few, I'm going to try to name about 3 or 4. One, Black-owned businesses are starting up at the fastest rate in generations. And the Small Business Administration is leading that. That's under Vice President Harris. So that's a big deal. Employment for Black men is at a record high right now. It's at a record high. Donald Trump can't even compare. I'll give 2 more that I can think of off the top of my head. More Black men have health insurance now than ever before. Literally, more Black men have more health insurance than they've ever had before. And the last one I'll end with on this one is, and we're still working on this, but it's better than it's ever been, and that is the racial wealth gap is closed by 60%. It's pretty big. So I think having this woman, this Black woman, this woman of color in leadership, you can expect more of that. You can expect a lot more of that.
What does that mean? Dig deeper in the 60%. Help educate brothers here. What does that mean for them in their pockets, in their pocketbooks, in their communities? Try to give us more understanding there.
So when you are talking about the racial wealth gap, that's pretty much all the economics. That comes from the small businesses. That comes from student debt relief. From folks being able to have. We're not looking at the whole issue with credit right now. It's targeted at a lot of Black folks. That has been fixed from her leadership. We're closing that. Well, the when it comes to econ, the economics, the quality and all of that, she is working on that. When we say we just use the broader term is the racial wealth gap, but it's multiple things within that racial wealth gap. How we got it to 6%, and that is through multiple things, whether that is through small businesses, whether that is through employment, more people of color, more Black men, more Black people are employed ever at its biggest time in modern history. So it's a wide things. I think I can speak on personally. It's probably student debt. I'm trying to purchase a home right now, my first home, but on my credit, I have my student loans holding me back when they look at your debt to racial income. Well, having your student loans forgiven, I've not gotten my student loans forgiven, and I've worked in administration, just to let you all know. But as I do understand the process, having your loans forgiven to get that house is a big thing. A lot of folks are experiencing that now. They're still experiencing that. So that's what we mean when we say the racial wealth gap. It's multiple things within that gap that has changed, and 6% is pretty large.
Hold on 1 second. So I'm going to do this here. Keenan, I just sent you a link in the chat. I need you to pull this website up, Keenan, so I can walk through it. Because to answer Khalil's questions, because again, I need the brothers who are listening, because here's the deal. I'm not interested in the emotion. I'm not interested in the lying and also the BS. I need people to understand what the data actually says. First and foremost, I need people to understand that, again, I'm parent, deep goes with Divine Nine here, okay, and non-Divine Nine people. Let me be perfectly clear. There's only one administration. I dare say in the past 5 administrations that has specifically sought out, listened to, and met with Divine Nine leaders. That includes Bush Cheney, Obama Biden, Trump Pence. It's been Biden Harris. Okay, not just shout out in speeches, but literally working sessions at the White House, at the old executive office building. Y'all, the photos and the data, it's all there. Okay, now some of you may say, whoa, Divine Nine exclusionary. No, we're talking about leaders, not just them. We're talking about the Links. We're talking Jack and Jill. We're all talking Prince Hall Masons, other organizations. So we need to understand they've been reaching out to folks. Now, Keenan, scroll up. So this is the Brookings Institution report. And what you have to understand, one of the reasons why, if you scroll down, Keenan, it's going to say growth in Black wealth has been driven by housing values. Now, that's a good thing, but here's the problem. The problem that this report shows is that still only 44% of African Americans own a home.
Correct.
Y'all, this is the report. So we need to understand what's going on here. One of the huge reasons why that gap is actually decreasing is because of the increase in housing values. But the problem is not enough of us actually own homes. So now you have to be asking the question. First of all, we got some fool on here said the wealth gap has not changed. Stop lying. No, Grim Reaper, you're a lying fool. This is the data right here. This is the chart right here. The problem is it is still too wide because of housing. So if we want to change what's happening, there needs to be an aggressive housing plan. And guess what? Donald Trump doesn't have one. You know who also didn't have one? Mitt Romney in 2012. I was on CNN lighting him up because he didn't have one. This is called real-time data, people. And so we need to understand that we've broken these things off. Okay, we've broken these things off, and so we have sat here and broken these things down. So this is a part of the piece here, but it's not just a question of economics. Let me remind people, COVID wiped out 41 to 50% of all Black-owned businesses in the country. Guess what? Vice President Kamala Harris said this when she was in Detroit, because I was there as well. The Biden-Harris administration has brought back 45% of those businesses wiped out, meaning they brought back almost half of those businesses that were wiped out. So again, Donald Trump can talk all he wants to about these things, but he's not giving you real information, okay? He's not giving you actual facts. That's the economic piece. They tried 60 different times to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, and they never, ever did it. Y'all talking about the Brookings report. Y'all, all y'all got to type in is Brookings report and Black wealth gap. That's all you got to type in. The report's going to come up, okay? And in fact, hold on. Let me just drop it into, okay, there's a link right there in the chat. The link is right there in the chat for you to actually see the report yourself. So this is when we talk about how you need to be looking at policies. Let me also say this here to every Black man who's here as well. I need all y'all sharing this information. Donald Trump has made it clear that he wants to give cops 100% immunity because he said they need to do their jobs. I'm going to repeat that. He said 100% immunity. Let me remind all of you, when he came in, Jeff Sessions was his attorney general. Jeff, guys, listen, I'm on a hotel Wi-Fi, so that's what it is. Jeff Sessions came in to the White House, and Jeff Sessions said, hey, we want to pull back on consent decrees because the cops, they're feeling hurt. Not my words, Jeff Sessions. They tried to stop the consent decree in Baltimore. They didn't want to do the consent decree in Chicago. Bill Barr said, let's pull back on these consent decrees. So all y'all talking about, oh, you love Trump being a strong man. He does not support police reform. This is according to the Secretary of Defense, Esper. When there were Black Lives Matter protesters, Trump said, why can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the leg to get them off the streets. Now, if that's the kind of person you want back in the Oval Office, go right ahead. That is not the kind of person I want back in the Oval Office. So we need to be real when we start talking about these economic issues, these health issues, and things along those lines. And that's what we have to begin to understand. And so what we need is, folks, you must be talking about what people want to do. what they are saying, how they want to deal with these things. That's not what's going on. So let's bring back both PAC members. Let's bring them back right now for conversation, for questions as well. So let's bring back Martin, bring back Frederick, because again, we need information. Y'all, you also got to dispute. We got to sit here and correct stuff. And that's the thing that's most important, y'all. We can't allow misinformation to run rampant. That is a huge, huge problem, Martin. So a lot of brothers are spouting stuff that's just flat out false.
Absolutely. And as you point out, we have the metrics, we have the data, we have the data scientists that can show and to demonstrate what the metrics are. So we need to look at what the data presents, and not go on things that are said off the cuff that when they're fact checked, they're wrong, but that information is not corrected or not brought back to the public that it is and is actually incorrect. So Roland, you're 100% correct. We know the data, we know the metrics, we know what are the states that we need to focus on, what are the issues. And one of the things that I will share with the brothers is that we have probably the least information as far as what's being our issues, what are our concerns that's being propagated by many across the aisle there. But in our community, in the communities on the local, state, and federal level, it's up to us to ensure that our issues are brought to the forefront and that we have the facts that we can justify and point why it's so important that we support this ticket on the 2024 ballot.
Well, let me say this here. We need to understand something here, Martin. That is this here. In 2019, there was one candidate who was attacked by Russian troll farmers more than anybody else.
Yep.
Vice President, it was then Senator Kamala Harris.
Yes.
In 2020, it was discovered the largest Black Lives Matter page on Facebook was a Russian troll farm.
Yes.
So we have to understand you have foreign entities like Russia that's feeding a lot of this stuff. You've got individuals impersonating Black people on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. So we need to understand what's going on here. And again, what we have to do is counter that, and we have to get people to understand, Frederick, that it's real. So you may be interacting with somebody who ain't even Black, a troll farm, but their job is to disseminate and stir up dissension among African Americans.
Absolutely, and we know who the Russians are in bed with, Donald Trump, and we know that because he is so easily manipulated by flavor and flattery, as Vice President Harris noted, we have to understand that in this election, we have to be more critical. We have to take a more critical eye at everything that we look at. I can't tell you how many things even my own family sends me, and my mother isn't a conspiracy theorist, but she'll just send me things, and I'll say, look, check the link. Does that seem like a reputable news source? But I think when we're talking about when brothers should be looking at the kind of party that they want to be a part of, I often ask the question, how can you feel comfortable being a part of a party that the KKK, white supremacists, and neo-Nazis find safe harbor in, as well as those who traffic in misinformation and disinformation? That's what that side is about. This side is about democracy. This side is about supporting and uplifting the hopes and ambitions and the aspirations of Black Americans. And that's what we got to push out there. That's the message. That's the truth.
Also, we got to realize this here. Project 2025, a major part of that is they want to advance what they call anti-white racism. They want to target and shut down any and all programs that have been beneficial to African Americans in academics, in corporate America, in education, in every field. And so folk got to understand, Donald Trump can lie all he wants to. I don't know nothing about Project 2025. I don't want to read it. Bottom line is, He has raised money for them. He knows what's in it. And I'm telling you right now, they're going to execute that agenda if he's back into the Oval Office. And so folk better understand, y'all can play games if you want to. Project 2025 has a bullseye on the back of every black person. And not only that, black people over-index as workers in the federal government. Project 2025 wants to require a MAGA. They want to require a MAGA pledge of allegiance. And if you do not pledge to support MAGA, they have made it clear they will fire you. That's all in Project 2025.
Absolutely. And again, we have the information. It's out there. He has told us exactly what he plans to do and what he plans to execute. And one of the questions that I asked some of my colleagues when they said, well, they think Donald Trump has done a great job. I said, well, how many African Americans did Donald Trump appoint to the federal bench during his administration? And when that number comes back as 0, then hopefully they can better understand that he is not putting a plan in place that's going to support the African American community or any community made up of minorities.
Well, not only that, if we want to talk about judges, let's be perfectly clear. Donald Trump, and this is from the Brennan Center for Justice. And so let me just go ahead and do this here. Keenan, I'm going to drop the link in here, Keenan. I want you to pull this up. Because see, again, though, I just want y'all to have the right information. Okay. Right. This is July 2020. It was only 6 months left in administration. Keenan's going to pull this article up, and this is from the Brennan Center for Justice. Trump and McConnell's overwhelmingly white male judicial appointments. Let me say it again. Okay. Look at this here. The article says, Corey Wilson, Keenan, scroll down to the second paragraph. It says, last week, Corey Wilson became the face of this effort when he became the 200th federal judge to be confirmed by Republican Senate during the Trump administration. In his first 40 months in office, Trump already has filled about 30% of the positions in the country's federal appeals court, where most of federal law is settled. Not a single one of Trump's 53 confirmed appeals court nominees is black. Only a single confirmed appeals court nominee is Latino. Y'all, those are facts. Here's a fact that you need to understand. And again, don't get mad at me, it's facts. 200 federal judges, actually it's now, I think it's 201, 200 federal judges named by Biden Harris. 58 of those federal judges are African American, 37 women, 21 men. Let me say that again. 58 of the 200 federal judges named by Biden Harris, confirmed by the Senate, were African American. Biden Harris, don't just talk about Ketanji Brown Jackson on the Supreme Court. That's history making. She's the first African American woman. They named more black women to the appeals court, than all other presidents combined in history. Frederick, those are facts. Now, the president is only there 8 years. Guess what? Federal is a long time. So everybody who's out there needs to understand these federal judges, they're making rulings in every aspect of our life. The data is clear. If you are trying to make a choice, and also all y'all black folks out there who support reparations, you know they're going to sue. That means you're going to need some federal judges who agree. So if you elect Trump, you're going to have largely hardcore right-wing, mostly white male federal judges. And if you support Biden, you support Harris Walls, you're going to have a far more diverse federal bench than you've ever had, Frederick.
Absolutely, Roland. And let's take this back to the Supreme Court, all the way back to 2016. And I hate to go back that far, but Hillary Clinton was right. And I think many of us find ourselves saying that today. She talked about how the next president would most likely be able to appoint 2 to 3 Supreme Court justices. And that's just what Donald Trump did when he was in the White House. And what did those justices do? Now, we know that they took away critical freedoms, such as a woman's right to choose. We know that they took away affirmative action. That has already led, we're seeing the reports at some schools drops in African-American enrollment, which is already pretty low. And the amount of African-American males who are already struggling to obtain a college education, or once they get into college, staying through and completing their degree. So we know that at this moment, more than any other, that we need to be supporting our Black males. And let's talk about Trump's record on criminal justice. When he was arrested and that mugshot was released, I watch Fox News sometimes because I'm a masochist. And there was a commentator who came on and had the goal to say, well, this is going to really help his street cred in the Black community.
He actually
so
said
used to jail.
Donald Trump also said it.
Yeah, well, Donald Trump, yes, absolutely. And then he released a sneaker, and said, "Oh yeah, this is some more credibility within the Black community." So these are the kind of messages that they're pushing out to our communities, but it's not being reflected on the federal judiciary or the Supreme Court, their support of Black communities, and it's so transparent and it's so disgusting. And quite frankly, I'm sick of it.
So again, I need people to understand that, y'all, federal judges are crucial, because when lawsuits are filed, you want somebody who's actually going to pay attention. It was a Republican federal judge that ruled that the EPA could not drive their agenda dealing in cancerous areas in Louisiana because no, you can't use race. Guess who died? Guess who's dying at a higher rate due to environmental racism? Black people.
Yes.
Black people. Donald Trump doing that? Let me also give y'all this here. The FBI director, Christopher Wray, said out of his own mouth, this is him, he said the greatest threat of domestic terrorism is white supremacy. Guess who shifted money away from targeting white supremacists? He became president, over to Muslims. Trump.
Yep.
Let me also help y'all with something else that y'all, a lot of y'all out here don't seem to want to understand. Guess who wants to return the Confederate names of military installations? Donald Trump. He wants all those military bases that were named after Confederate generals. They want them back.
Well, he likes losers, right? He's a loser himself.
I need everybody to listen to understand.
Yep.
Guess which party, after 10 Black people were gunned down in Buffalo, which party voted against an effort to get rid of white supremacy in law enforcement and the military? Republicans. Y'all, I'm giving you facts.
Yep.
Not opinion, not emotion. These are undeniable facts.
Yeah, you cannot make them up. They're right there in black and white. And year over year, if we just compare major metrics from the Trump administration to the administration that we currently have in office, like I always used to say, are you better off now than you were back from 2016 to 2020?
And I just want to make the point too, because it was brought up about Cancer Alley in Louisiana, where I'm from. My mother doesn't live far from that area. So it truly is disheartening when we hear on the other side climate change is a hoax, when we see that its impacts are disproportionately impacting people of color and people in the South who are poor and who don't have the resources to improve their conditions. And we see that Donald Trump, who's often in the pocket of big oil companies, would rather fight for them than fight for our communities. It's a shame.
Right.
And again, I'm just walking y'all through what are undeniable facts. So when you are talking to people, you can explain to them exactly what's going on, who's fighting for what, who's doing what. I'm about to mess y'all up. So all y'all, do y'all remember when Maxine Waters first said reclaiming my time?
Yes.
Guess what that discussion was? This was one of the first acts that the Republicans did when Donald Trump won. They repealed an Obama-era rule that targeted discrimination in car loan financing. There was a white Republican who went on the floor and he said to Congresswoman Maxine Waters, y'all can go to YouTube and find it. Oh, we need to stop talking about race and move on from these things. Y'all, the bill they were discussing would get rid of protections for Black people in discrimination in auto lending. That was one of the first bills the Republicans voted on and got rid of. So you tell me, who would you then be supporting between those two? Oh, do y'all know why we don't know any of the racial data about contracts when Trump was in there 4 years? Because they got rid of it. They stopped collecting the data. I'm just trying to walk all y'all out here. Y'all can yell, holler, and scream y'all want to about how Trump was great. And let me go ahead and address this here for the people in the back who don't get it. Oh, man, Trump I had a fool from Compton emailing me, Trump put money in our pockets. Let me explain something to y'all. So y'all understand. Donald Trump did not put money in your pockets. The money was approved by Congress.
Right.
Democrats control the House. Yes. He held the money up so he could put his signature on the check. And let me help every single one of y'all. Donald Trump ain't coming in at all and handing out checks. In fact, the Republicans want to slash every single one of those programs. Y'all can play games if you want to, but all that money that was handed out during COVID, that money ain't coming back. Y'all not seeing that money, and you're never going to see that money. So get out of this notion that, oh, you think with Trump, if Trump came back, oh, the checks are going to start flowing. No, it's not. That ain't happening. Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, and to your point there, one of the things that Trump is really running so hard for is that he's trying to stay out of jail. He's trying to ensure that he does not go to prison, and he's going to do everything that he can that if he wins day one, he's going to open up the jail for those that ran amok in D.C. when we were trying to do the peaceful handover of what should be in a democracy and democratic process. So Trump is not thinking about you. He's not thinking about us. He's not thinking about lowering taxes. He's thinking about only lowering taxes for his buddies and the very, very wealthy. But as far as the middle class, the working class, we're not getting the check. And Roland, thank you so much for continuing to point that out, is that Congress passed those checks to come out. Donald Trump vetoed, and Congress had to override that veto, but he held it up to make it seem like he was giving people some money. So thank you for making that clarification, because that is absolutely the truth.
So we just have to continue to keep educating people so they understand what's going on. And that really is, and this is all driven, this is all issue driven. It's issue driven. Folks, I don't want y'all to get into emotional arguments with people. I want you to stay locked in. And here's, if you're listening, when you're talking to these brothers and sisters, and they say, hey, I don't really know, this is all you got to say. First of all, I want you to name me 3 things that you care about. Have them name the 3. And then you should be able to say, this is where Vice President Kamala Harris stands on those 3 things, and Donald Trump. Now, which one of those folks you want to vote for? And I guarantee you, out of those 3, it's a good bet they're going to side with Kamala Harris on 3 of those as opposed to Donald Trump. Khalil, you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to bring, and thank you, Roland, for always moderating and leading these conversations in the direction that we need them for our community. So always thank you to you, big brother. But to Martin and Frederick, from a fraternity perspective, I know I am not one, I do not have that honor, but what can you share with your members as they go back to their communities as they go back to their chapters and they're in the communities, knocking on doors, or doing it from a nonpartisan perspective at that level, that they could share in the barbershops, share with their fellow members. Can we help us guide the conversation in that way? So if there's questions that you think may be specific to your fraternity, I know they may not be specific just to that, but also engaging Black men as a whole, but help us guide our conversation so that if you're a young brother that's a Sigma or Kappa that joined this evening and wanted to take something back to their chapter meeting, what are 2 or 3 things that you would want to share with them in this open forum, or others that are joining for other fraternities that are listening tonight, that they should take back with them?
Absolutely. So one of the things I would take back is, one, let's make sure you're registered to vote. Let's make sure that everyone in your circle, your SANs, your line brothers, the brothers in the chapters, let's make sure that you're registered to vote. Make sure that you have a voting plan. And then secondly, let's ensure that your family is registered to vote. Let's make sure that your household, your neighbors, members of your church, that you participate in voter registration activities. And then in addition to that, as men, we are leaders. So let's get out and let's promote and ensure that we're getting people to the poll, or that people are checking their registration status. If there's an opportunity to have a big registration drive, partner with other organizations. Each fraternity doesn't have to do it on their own. We can partner with other groups, other organizations, Urban League, NAACP, the churches. These are nonpartisan activities. So make sure that you partner with those organizations. And then additionally, make sure you're informed. Go to these town hall meetings. Go to candidate forums. Make sure you're informed on the candidates, and make sure that you understand who you're voting for on the local level and your state level as well, in addition to the federal level, because it's important that not only do you know the candidates that's running that may live right next door to you, but also the public policies that are on the ballot. And what do those policies mean, and how can they impact your community? So these are things that are very nonpartisan, but things that I have asked and employ each one of our members and those that's here tonight in fraternities, sororities, or other organizations to take back and to ensure that we implement as Black men and the leaders in the communities that we are.
And yeah, I will echo everything that Brother Raxon just said. I'll also mention that the Sigma Pack, every spring we do something called the John R. Lewis Social Justice and Political Leadership Boot Camp. So that opportunity is yearly. We want brothers to know that that is an opportunity to learn and get the skills that you need to either work on a campaign or be the candidate yourself. So we have that opportunity. But over the next 44 days, we do want to encourage things like adopting a precinct. So you can go to your local Democratic Party headquarters, figure out where there's a potential high number of Black voters, as well as the previous turnout that year. If it's low, you can work to help increase that turnout in that precinct. I also encourage you to look up your local state representative or state senator or school board. If it's a competitive race, you can get involved there, because that's also going to be critically important in the work of preserving and protecting democracy, and then ensuring that Kamala Harris has teammates on the ground to get the agenda done. And then, stroll to the polls, right? Maybe host a stroll competition where, you can only get in if you show your voter registration, and then encourage people to show up to early vote or vote on election day on November 5th. So all of this work is going to be crucially important. Yep. Like I said, it doesn't end November 5th. We're going to keep going because we got the midterms after that, and so much work to help reelect Vice President Kamala Harris in 2028. So I'll toss it back to you,
folks. I want to close this out. So here's the deal. Remember, early voting has started in some places, but remember, voting registration deadlines are coming up. Double check your state. Go to iwillvote.com to, first of all, find out in your state when registration ends. Second, check your status. Know your status, because we've seen in Texas, Oklahoma, where they're removing people from the voting rolls. So also go to iwillvote.com to check your status there as well. Also, then find out when early voting in your state begins. Don't wait to vote on November 5th. I get the whole romantic thing about going to the polls on election day. Damn that. Early voting for, I'm registered in Texas. It starts on October 21st. I will be voting on 21st or the 22nd. That's what we're going to do. So understand what needs to be happening. And so we have to understand polls do not win elections, votes win elections. And if Black people, if we vote at 70% of our capacity, we can sweep elections. What we cannot do is be voting at 30, 35, 38, and 40% of our eligible voters. We need to be driving our numbers up. The last 5 election cycles have seen a decrease in Black voter turnout. We're almost at pre-Obama levels. We don't need to be at pre-Obama levels. We need to be higher. We need to be maximizing our votes. So that means educating people, talking to people, getting them registered, getting to the polls. That's what we have to do. And so we're going to be having this call every single Sunday between now and the election. 44 days left. Listen, when you send the information out, we had 55,000 brothers on that call the day after the sisters had their call. Well, guess what? We need those brothers back. We need people sharing the information. So we're going to keep pressing this whole issue. So thanks a lot for everybody who's joined us. And don't forget, iwillvote.com. If you want more information as well, go to winwithblackmen.org, winwithblackmen.org to get more information. Folks, that is it. We are going to close this out. We thank everybody for joining us, and we look forward to our next conversation. Y'all be well. Holla!
Thanks, Roland.